What do you want to see? What changes do you want to see? What tactics do you want to see? I mean, obviously, we've covered this quite a bit, even in your absence. Just the overall mood of the national team, the comments that have been made about the national team, their performances. But this is the knockout rounds, which is where they wanted to be. It's against a familiar face in Sweden. But is there any specifics you would want to get out of this one as Jimmy opens up his curtains to let us see the sunrise in jealousy just once again?
It's beautiful. What I will say is, now that Roosevelt is suspended for this game, and she was kind of what was missing in terms of creativity, although she'd get into the final third and I think lacked the ability to combine and was a little bit too direct. I'd like to see Julie Ertz move to a defensive midfield role. So you lock up the back four, protect the back four, and then you have Lindsay Rant, and I'd like to see Ashley Sanchez get the start because she's super creative. You still have Sophia Smith on the left, Alex Morgan up top, although I would have liked to see Sophia Smith in the group stages play the 9 because she has a little bit more to her game in terms of dribbling ability, changing the pace. I think she's a little bit more dynamic than Alex Morgan right now, but I don't see Alex Morgan being benched at this point. So Sophia Smith, Alex Morgan, and back to Trinity Rodman on the right. And I think what's been missing for this U.S. team is the dominance in midfield, winning second balls, being a little bit better in terms of playing in between the lines, having Sophia Smith and Alex Morgan and Trinity Rodman, the front three, create more, interchange, combine more. We haven't seen that. And the U.S. typically dominate the midfield, whether it's winning every challenge and being direct or controlling the ball and using every ounce of width on the pitch and making the other team chase, spreading them out before they go for the killer pass. We haven't seen that. And so this team doesn't have an identity at this point. And I think that's what's concerning. It's because you don't know how they're going to play. You don't know their style. You don't know their strengths necessarily. It's a lot of brilliant individual, but that's not how you win the World Cup. You see the other teams that have come together as a team, and that's always going to trump the individuals. So I'm hoping they find some sort of chemistry and symmetry in not only the midfield, but the attacking trio. That's what's been missing.
I'm going to jump in here because I agree with you, Chuck. I think that Julie Ertz needs to get into the midfield. I think that she has a presence. That's ultimately her best area, I think, to really dominate and put her stamp on the game, which she's shown countless times for the women's national team over the years. I'd actually bring Alana Cook back into the team and play center back next to Naomi Girma. They have been working on that for better or for worse. I'm not necessarily the biggest Cook fan, but when you think about what she can bring to the table and how good Sweden are on set pieces in particular, I think that another big body back there. And actually, she has more reps with Girma over the last year at center back than Ertz and Girma do. So I think bringing Cook in, taking Andy Sullivan out, putting who I don't think is very mobile, and I think you're going to have some mobility, and I think Ertz can cover a little bit more ground. I think the team probably is more fluid in that spot. But here's my big one. I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. So you take out Andy Sullivan, put Ertz in there. Alana Cook comes into the center back spot. And instead of having Ashley Sanchez, who I appreciate, but she has not played 1 minute yet in this tournament, but I really love her game. And that's still an option. I would be open to that. But dropping Alex Morgan into the 10 spot. So you'd have a midfield of – she's already doing it anyway, right? She's starting high and dropping into those areas anyway. Her starting position would be a little bit different. And putting Sophia Smith at the 9. So you'd have Morgan and Smith ultimately more central, which I think would be better for Sophia. Trinity on one side, maybe Lynn Williams on the other. And then you'd have a midfield. On paper, it sounds amazing. You'd have Ertz, Haran, and Alex Morgan. And I think that Alex has done enough, and maybe her career is changing, so she's got to adapt and dropping in. And when I start to think about all those players on the field at the same time, when you have a Lynn who had great chances in the game against Portugal, didn't take those chances, but was probably in those areas, give her another run out, give her another chance to settle in and maybe hit the back of the net. And then you have Trinity and Sophia and Alex all on the field at the same time. I just feel like adding another attacking player while solidifying the midfield with Ertz, to your point, Charlie, I think would be really smart. But that just means Cook's got to come in and have a big-ass game. And I believe the team overall, and I know Heath, I want you to jump in here, but I believe the team overall is ready to have that one big game of this tournament. And they seem to have Sweden's number in this competition. Sweden has their number in the Olympics for whatever reason. But in this competition, we seem to have Sweden's number. So long may that continue. So I'm very curious and excited to see how they perform in this game.
Yeah, totally. Actually, I wanted to, before we jump back to it, just ask you both generally about this, because we've seen this now. We went through this whole narrative in 2022, but now in 2023, with the fact that you generally see the top clubs go through, and the clubs, national teams go through, right? On the women's side, there's been powerhouses for a long time. There's institutions, so to speak. But with Brazil and Germany out, I think it's opened up a new conversation just about the growth of the sport and the development of that in other countries. Just maybe there's still the gap is closing in the top 10, but then there's a whole nother row when I look at that Portugal and the way that they played in their first ever World Cup. It's a pretty incredible growth curve to be that good, where I thought that they should have beat the U.S. women and should have gone through and are quality enough to be a knockout round team. Do you think that there is that much of a gap being closed in that much time, that where a Brazil and a Germany going out isn't just like we see in other tournaments, where it's just like, random one-off bad tournament, but more so that, it was a bad tournament. Plus the quality of opponent has shifted now, and it's no longer just like clear favorites and the clear favorites go through every time. I guess
easy answer. Yes. The field has grown considerably because of what the U.S. women have been able to do. And they've put, you look at that 99 team, they have tried the absolute most to make it apparent that women should be getting the same opportunities on the pitch as the men do, and that FIFA should treat the women like they do the men. And you're starting to see more countries adopt the ability to train the women and to get them the proper coaching, and they're starting to see what happens. Mm-hmm. And that is, they can ball, that they can also make money, and it's a business. And you look at Jamaica, what they've been able to do, Nigeria, Colombia. It's really inspiring to see these women go out there and represent their country and represent women, and also highlight and showcase the growth of the game for women. So it really started with the U.S. women showing what it's all about, and taking those risks and standing up for what's right and speaking their mind, and look at where the game is today. So for me and for us, Jimmy, you're there at Fox, but me being able to cover it with CBS every day and watching the games, that's been the best part, is covering these matches and seeing like some of these skills, like the skill check, Portugal, Brazil, but also, some of these smaller nations. Like I am just so inspired by some of the skills that we've seen in the development of the game. So I'm a big advocate and pumped to see how far this game has come for the women.
Yeah, give a shout out to the best young player in the tournament, Linda Caicedo from Colombia. 18 years old and super special. She's ridiculous. I look forward to seeing how she plays for Real Madrid this upcoming season. But to your point, both of you, the money's coming in, right? And the U.S. is probably a victim of their own success here, because they had the infrastructure early. They were ahead of the curve in a lot of different ways. And now that's being leveled. All these other countries are having those same luxuries. I use luxuries with some air quotes because there's still a lot of work to do in the space, of course. But the coaching has gotten a lot better too. I look at Desiree Ellis in South Africa, despite their limitations and despite them not having the funding, there's now coaches with vast experience that are jumping into this area. So I look at Desiree Ellis
Morocco.
in South Africa. Yeah, right. Reynald Pedros from Morocco. He left Lyon and won 2 women's Champions League titles to come take this over. And Morocco, I don't know whatever Morocco's doing, but there should be somebody over there like taking notes, because obviously the men had tremendous success getting to the semifinals, and now the women have, after losing 6-0 to Germany in the first game, they won back-to-back 1-0 games. It really speaks to the quality that they have. And just think about their future. You start to extrapolate what that looks like. Even Jamaica, Haiti, all these CONCACAF teams. I think Panama and Costa Rica still have some work to do. Mexico's nowhere to be seen. Canada's going to be in a little bit of a transition, but I'm with you guys. It's really exciting, and this tournament's been a hell of a ride. And the fact that Germany and Brazil and Canada are already out, I think really speaks to where this game is going, and it feels as wide open as ever. And it's always going to be tough for the U.S. to win 3 consecutive World Cups because nobody's ever done it before, probably for a reason, because it's just hard to extend that over multiple tournaments. But I'm hopeful that the U.S. can get the result against Sweden.
Well, they haven't not done it yet, so they're still alive in this one. So let's move on to final thoughts for either of you. You can make it about the U.S. women's national team. You can make it about Sweden. You can make it about Timo Weah scoring, Weston McKennie involved in the goals. You can make it about anything you want to wrap up this show. I'm giving you free reign, guys, because that's the kind of guy I am. You know what I mean? I want to send you guys off towards your weekends with just the most positive of energies.
Yes, I'll start with just we're all rooting for the U.S. women, and I don't think it for 1 second this is about mentality. The reason why they're in the place that they're in today, the dancing, the self-promotion, the sponsorships, that's part of the game. It's evolved. That's where we are today. But I think, yes, they haven't delivered in certain moments on the pitch, but I think this comes down to coaching, and it's as simple as putting the right group together. I don't think Vlatko has really experimented enough to figure out what is the right group and where am I getting the most out of each player. So tactically, but also just in terms of player selection, I think that is a big miss. And to get as far as they are now as individuals, I think that speaks more highly of the players to get to where they are now, given that this hasn't really been the best coaching demonstration that we've seen for the U.S. women in a long time. So I'm hoping he tries some different things because what his substitutions have been off. I think he's been too defensive. The inserting of Julie Ertz as a center back when she hasn't been center back for a number of years, it's concerning. So I'm hoping enough of the leaders step up and have a conversation with Vlatko and say, hey, you got to make some changes, and that he takes that advice to heart.